Welcome to Philanthropy SA. This is a podcast about and for the philanthropic community in San Antonio and South Texas. We introduce organizations and people who are making an impact in the community. Beneficent Financial is proud to sponsor this podcast, and it is our hope that you enjoy this conversation about the impact we can have. The goal is to edify and inspire. Now please join our host, Dan Rebmann.
Hi, thanks for joining us today on Philanthropy SA. I'm your host, Dan Rebmann, and I'm very pleased to be joined today by Antonio Fernandez. He's the president and CEO of Catholic Charities here in San Antonio. And when you think of philanthropy in San Antonio, I can't think of an organization that serves more people than you all do. Thank you so much for being here, Antonio.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you for the invitation, and we're really, really happy to be here with you today.
So we're going to be talking in a little bit about Catholic Charities and just a fraction of the things that you do because of all the things that go on in San Antonio thanks to Catholic Charities. But first, I want to find out a little bit about you. So you are not originally from San Antonio.
Correct. So actually, I was born in Spain many years ago. And when I was a lot younger, I moved to Chicago to study English. I love Chicago so much that I decided to stay. And I was able to get a job and have a wonderful life. And then I met a woman who became my wife, and that was game over for me to going back to Spain. So Chicago was home for 20 plus years. We had a great bishop in the south side of Chicago called Bishop Gustavo Garcia, who became the Archbishop of San Antonio in 2011. He asked me to move down here to work with him, or for him, actually. I said no, and then he called my wife, and then we moved to San Antonio.
That's the way those things work sometimes.
Well, it worked perfectly, I guess, for him and for me and my family as well.
Yes. Well, I bet you missed Chicago in February.
Oh, absolutely not. But in the summers, I have to admit, it's great, but that's when San Antonio is fantastic. Here in the winters, with this wonderful weather.
Indeed, it is. And so you came to the States as a student. You decided to stay. And what made you get involved in the nonprofit world as opposed to, other lines of business?
Well, I always had that thrive to help people in need. I always had that thrive to actually help with mental health issues. Like people will come and tell me their problems, and I will give them my opinions. Again, as a teenager, that's nothing. But my first 2 degrees were in psychology because that's what I wanted to do. And, became a case manager, a social worker, counselor in the west side of Chicago. And through the connections and meeting people and so on, I ended in Catholic Charities Chicago. And I was running 130 programs, thousands of people. And it was a true blessing. And I, to be honest with you, I never knew that I was going to leave Chicago. I thought we're going to stay there forever.
Understood. And so we can get into an argument over deep dish versus other types of pizza.
Yeah, there is absolutely no favorites here but deep dish pizza. I mean, you're part in Chicago, you're in the, in the community, you're a White Sox fan or you're a Cubs fan, you have to be a Chicago Bears fan. And the pizza is not a debate. I mean, everybody's clear. You like everything else, but you have to say that. Being Catholic, actually, that was funny because many people would love to go to Indiana to see Notre Dame University, but other people in the north side will go to Marquette in Wisconsin. So it's always funny about, what you like, what don't you like. And Archbishop Gustavo and I had many discussions about the Chicago White Sox because his career was in the White Sox, so he's a White Sox fan. And I married a north sider, so I had to be a Cubs fan. So.
There you go. Well, here we get to root for the missions. So it's all good. So you came to San Antonio and came to be the president and CEO of Catholic Charities. And, tell us a little bit about what Catholic Charities does.
Oh, my gosh. So we do a lot, or we try to do a lot. So we have over 60 programs last year. And we're always growing or decreasing programs, but mostly growing, at least for 11 years now. I always tell people, we are with people from the womb to the tomb. So we have a program called San Antonio Birth Doulas that helps moms who are expecting babies. So for 3 months before delivery date, during the delivery, and 3 months after, we are with those moms. At no cost to the moms. We help them with whatever we can. Nurses, case managers, counselors, housing, whatever those moms will need, we're here for them. And then to the end of life, to die with respect and dignity and love, we have 5 programs that actually help seniors, older adults, One of them being Adaptive Senior, which is one of my favorite ones, in which we actually help seniors who are isolated. I mean, the reality in San Antonio is there's many, many seniors who don't have transportation. They don't have anyone. The kids move away, and now they find themselves alone. So we have hundreds of volunteers who actually go to help these moms. And these abuelas, abuelos, grandpas, grandmas, and including me, I have an abuela called Yolanda that my family has kind of adopted, or she has adopted us, just to help them. And in between is everything, food pantries, closed closets, financial assistance, housing assistance, legal services, counseling services, immigrant services as well. And then, Catholic Charities has become a complex entity with 5 different entities under the umbrella, just to be more efficient with resources and just to ensure that we provide more services when needed.
Very good. Mm-hmm. And so let's do a deeper dive on a couple of those programs. What's one of them that you think maybe is either underappreciated or people don't know about, and you've got like some bandwidth there and you'd love to see more people take advantage of it? So I mean, there's so many programs, and the senior services, I think that Adaptive Senior has been a huge wish for all of us. But right now, the one that I'm trying my best to make it happen is what we call San Pascal's. We have moms who are living in shelters like Sidon Home, 17-year-old children who have children who are in foster care. When they're 18, they turn 18, they're no longer wards of the state. And now they say, you know what, I'm going to have my life, I have a boyfriend, I have this person, and I'm going to do whatever I want, which is great because everybody can do that. But the bittersweet issues with us is that many of these moms are coming back to us saying, you know what, I'm 19, I'm 18, I didn't think life was like this, I need help. Yeah. So our goal at Catholic Charities, and it's one thing that I would like to say here today, the goal of Catholic Charities is to help people become self-sufficient in everything that we do. How do we help people be able to grow and become self-sufficient? It's like teaching people how to fish, not just giving them the fish. So at San Pascal's, we have a chef who is actually teaching these moms how to cook. We pay them $16 an hour, and they are able to make sandwiches, cookies, brownies, salads, whatever it is. So now we actually are now having a workforce development for a population that we clearly know, based on our years of history with St. Peter's Sidon Home, that there is a tremendous need for them. Because we can talk about, they are great people and we want to help them, but helping them with a job, with the skills, with knowledge, I think it's basic for them so they can have they become self-sufficient. They can have respect. They can have those qualities as a person that they may have now that they are working and having a nice income. Absolutely. And I've talked to a number of guests, over the time that I've been doing the podcast, and the one recurring theme that I keep hearing is, if you can tackle more issues upstream, right, then you create the downstream issues, correct, where other services are needed and that type of thing. And few things are more upstream than education and job training and getting people into a place where they can be as self-sufficient as possible. So that's great. Is there another program you wanted to kind of highlight here? So,
like education is huge for us, and I think your guests are absolutely right. We need to help people with whatever skills they want. And I don't talk about going to university, because you don't need to go to university to be smart, to have skills. You can go to trade school if that's the case. But, in the west side of San Antonio, we have this not-for-profit called Guadalupe Community Center. And 10 years ago, we opened an after-school program with 8 kids. We had over 200 kids last year. Now, during the summer, we have the summer camps. We have 5 different locations through the city of San Antonio in which we have these kids who have nothing to do in the summer. So we feed them. They can play. They can do whatever they want, and they're in a safe place. And, again, everything is STEAM education. But during the year, same thing. My proudest program may have been the after-school program, and the goal has always been very, very clear, is to go to the next grade. We have goals about reading materials and teaching and this kind of education. My goal is every single child has to go to the next grade. And for many people, including myself, I think, well, that's easy. Everybody does that. And I was mistaken because it's not true. Many kids actually have to stay back and back again in many courses because they haven't gone to class. They have their own issues. So I am very, very proud to say that in 10 years, every single child that we have had, which is thousands of them now, have gone to the next grade. Only once the kid had to go to summer school. So the summer school is great for us because everything is free, 100% to the kids and the families. We pick them up at the school. They get to our sites. They eat. Then they do the homework, and then they can play. We have a beautiful room with, green room for iPads, and they can do their TikToks or whatever they want to do. They have PlayStation 5, a bunch of them, so they can play. They have a pool table. They have this beautiful room as a reward system after they do their homework. But for us, the feeding them, the teaching them is part of who we are, part of becoming self-sufficient. And at the end of the day, if the family is going to come and pick them up, we'll take them home. And I think that is what Catholic Charities needs to do. And that's what we need to do is educate our youth as much as possible so they can choose their path in life to self-sufficiency. Yeah.
And again, in that program, you're dealing with those upstream issues and getting in front of people when they're, challenged as youth in terms of, being at risk and that type of thing and being able to do that. So how do people become eligible for your services?
Oh, my gosh. Some of the programs, I'm thinking right now about Project Cool. That is the program that we have during the summer where we give fans to people 55 and older. So
I qualify.
Well, but you're a 55 young, good-looking man. So, but anyone who's 55 or older actually can go to Catholic Charities, and if you don't have enough money to pay for electricity for the AC, or your AC is down, or you don't have an AC unit, you can always come to Catholic Charities. We'll give you a fan, and just like that. We have other programs like BIDA, over 30,000 people in San Antonio with partnership with United Way. And the city of San Antonio, we do the taxes for people who make $60,000 or less. Mm-hmm. And again, Catholic Charities trains all the volunteers and ensures that we have competent people to do the taxes. So those are two qualifications. But most of the programs of Catholic Charities are 100% free. Our counseling department, for instance, I think you pay $5 per session. Now, you make hundreds of thousands of dollars, you're going to have a sliding fee where you may have to pay more money. But overall, most of the services that we do are free 100%, which is the right thing to do. And that's why we have donors, and that's why people give us in-kind donations or cash.
Mm-hmm. And I'm really glad you mentioned the tax program. As a financial guy, that I saw that one and I said, that's pretty neat. So, folks that earn less than $60,000, you have trained professionals that'll do their taxes for them.
Correct. And it's a blessing. I mean, these days, on average, people pay $350 to do your taxes. Mm-hmm. What happens when you don't have that money? So again, for us, it's a blessing that we can do this for the community. So now that money is back reinvested in the community, hopefully, so people are just spending the money where they want to do it.
Yeah. And so your programs are very open and available to folks. What's the best way for people to find out information about Catholic Charities?
I mean, I think these days with technology being so out there, website, Facebook, I think we have all the social media. But usually I will think it's like just go to the website of Catholic Charities San Antonio. Our main office is in 202 West French, so anyone who needs help, they can actually go there, even though we have now 13 locations through the city, as well as in Uvalde and Del Rio. But again, the website, should be the easiest place.
Very good. And what's the URL for that?
I think it's www.ccaosa.org.
There you go.
Here we go. God knows if it's not, then please come and looking for me and tell me.
No, I think we got it. So that's awesome. And you mentioned funding. So I'm sure there are people who are going to be thinking, Catholic Charities, the Pope cuts a check, gives it to Antonio, and then everything happens, right?
Of course, yeah. The Pope is, I wish he were my friend, but no. Funding is a very difficult issue for us. It's one of the two stigmas or stereotypes that I have to talk to people all the time. People think that the church actually gives a lot of money to us, and the Archdiocese of San Antonio gives us less than 1% of our budget. So we don't get funding from them as much as the people think. For us, it's a lot of contracts that we have with other entities, with the government, with city, county, state, so on, or the foundations, but also a lot of people who are giving us money because they see us in the news, or because maybe they hear this podcast, or maybe because now they know that we're trying to help everybody. But funding has been a big issue. I think starting in 2018 or 19, when Harvey happened, in Houston, we really try our best to help our brothers and sisters there. Mm-hmm. We had almost 100 vehicles going from San Antonio to Houston. And then we started getting a lot of donations. And now people ask me sometimes, like, hey, where should I give money? And sometimes it's for Catholic Charities. Sometimes I say, like, well, do you want this? This is the entity in San Antonio who can do the most. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Very good. So, but people who are inclined, you do accept money from folks here in San Antonio.
Oh, my gosh. We always need money. That's my job in life, is fundraising and begging for money. But I hate asking for money. If you have any money, please can give it to me. But I have to, because it goes to the people in need. You know? When we serve almost 300,000 people, 298,000 last year, those are people who have mostly nothing. Yeah. And for us, clothes, food, utility assistance, rent, free counseling, free legal help. It's a basic human need that all of us need. And I'm really happy that Catholic Charities does to everybody. Not just the Catholics, that people think we only serve Catholics, or we serve it to everybody. Catholic, non-Catholic, Caucasian, Asian, anything. And anyone in need is welcome to come to us, and we will be more than happy to help. And our questions will be more like, did you eat today? Or do you have a place to sleep tonight? And that's what we need to do.
No, absolutely. And so is that, you said there were kind of two misconceptions about Catholic Charities.
Yeah, one was the church money, mm-hmm. and one is that we only serve Catholics.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure there's more, but I don't know.
No, I understand. That makes sense, that people see that, and then it's kind of like they make some assumptions there that aren't necessarily correct. So we're going to take a moment to hear from our sponsor, and we'll be right back with more from Antonio and Catholic Charities.
Many of you out there care deeply about wanting to make an impact on the world around you. You want to help take care of the people and organizations that are important to you. We understand that because we feel the same way. Beneficent Financial wants to help you. Our mission is to help people like you with professional, individualized financial advice achieve their objectives. Whether your financial legacy will stay within your family or benefit the community at large, we are able to help. Call Beneficent Financial today at 210-999-5511. In addition to traditional wealth management, we offer philanthropic services such as direct donations of required minimum distributions, donor-advised funds, and foundations. Call 210-999-5511 or go online to beneficentfinancial.net. Let us help you do well so you can do good. Securities offered through Momentum Independent Network, member SIPC/FINRA.
Thanks for being with us today on Philanthropy SA. I'm your host, Dan Rebmann, and I'm very pleased to be joined today by Antonio Fernandez, the president and CEO of Catholic Charities. So in terms of the programs and that type of thing that you offer, what is how do you work with other organizations? You mentioned the United Way, for example, a minute ago, and Chris Martin was on the podcast a while ago, and he's, they're doing a lot of good work there. How do you decide where you're going to be doing what and, partnering with, and how do you partner with other agencies and other organizations?
So San Antonio is a big city, but sometimes it's like a small city because everybody knows everybody, or you want to believe that. So for us, we do a lot. But there are things that we don't. So, we don't do food quantities in a massive way, in a massive distribution. So, for instance, we had a shelter where we have people coming from Central America, from South America. These are people who are coming legally from, the U.S. government is giving them visas to stay, and we help them as much as we can. But I cannot produce thousands of meals per day. But I know who can, and that's the food bank. So then the food bank actually is supplying the food that we have in this place. United Way has great because when we actually apply to some government funding, if we don't know how to apply or we have some questions, you know what? United Way has a great entity and is helping you to work like this. So the shelter that I just mentioned, for instance, we have worked very closely with United Way for the last 3 years for funding to the U.S. And I see United Way as a wonderful entity because for me, it's like the second set of eyes that I need to ensure that we provide quality services. Because in my life, in my house, my wife is my second set of eyes who tells me what I do right or what I do wrong, mostly wrong. But for this shelter, for instance, it's great because United Way has provided at that quality level that we want to ensure that we provide to people. So to some degree, we do work with everybody. When we have a lot of people, I mean, the capacity that we have on a nightly basis is around 150 people at the Catholic Charities shelters per night. There was last year in November and December, we may have 2,000 people. So I call Heaven for Hope. Found out there, do you have any place for people to sleep? Because we don't have enough space. So for me, it's not about Catholic Charities. For me, it has to be about the people that we serve. It's about the people who need services, the housing, the food, whatever it is. And if I cannot provide that, let me refer you to whoever can do it.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And that's the spirit of philanthropy is pulling together to help those who need help. And that's a perfect example of that. Before we started recording, we were talking about something that, you've got some organizations that were standalone organizations that have been kind of brought into your organization. And I'm going to tell you, this is a bit of a, something for me dealing with a variety of organizations over the years is that I always talk about the fact that in the for-profit world, you'll see people do what we call roll-ups, right? So they'll go and they'll buy like dry cleaners and kind of take advantages of economies of scale and that type of thing and do all that. But you don't see a lot of that in the nonprofit world yet. You've done exactly that with some organizations. I'm thinking specifically of Seton Home. But why don't you talk to the audience a little bit about kind of what you did there and the impact that it's had, both in terms of the services that Seton Home's able to deliver, but also what it's done, in terms of freeing up resources to make available for the people who get served.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we have 5 different entities under the umbrella of Catholic Charities. So to me, it's like in the family. St. PJ's, Seton Home, Guadalupe Community Center, Catholic Charities, and San Antonio Bertolas. So 2 huge accomplishments, or 2 things that actually I think makes this a fantastic enterprise. One is the financial enterprise. You got a non-for-profit, so much of the money is going to overhead. And it takes, you got a $100,000 company, you still need to have an HR department, you need to have a finance department, you need to do all of these things. Maybe it's $500,000, you had to make it a little bigger. $1 million, you still had to make it bigger. $5 million, even bigger. So when we have 5 companies, all of them in the millions of dollars, that's a lot of overhead. Having 5 directors of HR, or 5 directors of development to fundraise, or 5 directors of facilities. So for us, was a huge transition to little by little, start merging, and now just going from 5 directors of facilities, for instance, to have just 1. Just in that position, taking 4 people out of the equation, you're talking about $250,000, $300,000. When you put everybody together, we almost save $2 million. And I think it's not about the money, it's about what you can do with that money. Because now with $2 million extra cash, I can actually provide more services for the children at St. PJ's, more services for the babies at San Antonio Bertolas, and more services to the other companies. And to us, it's really, really important because it has been a difficult process. We cut a lot of fat, and then we actually had to put some muscle back because we got some muscle too. So it's always like an understanding that like it's not perfect. We're trying sometimes. But I can tell you, the board members now love it. It was a challenge at the beginning to understand that, hey, we are 5 different companies. People are like, well, but is Catholic Charities taking over? It's like, no. You have 5 boards that they actually have the responsibility to oversee the company and ensure that the company is running, the way it has to be. But that was a big change. And to me, it was amazing when I saw the financial savings that were put back into the companies. The other one has also been what I call the blessing or the curse of Catholic Charities. We have one company that does over 60 programs. So we're not the food bank that does amazing things with food or, heaven for hope, amazing things with homeless people. We have to be experts about everything that we try to do. So the blessing has been that young moms, let's say, sit at home, they live at 18. So now through Catholic Charities programs, we can provide them with financial assistance, with housing, with whatever they may need, even workforce development, to become self-sufficient and to become, successful in life. The babies at San Antonio Bertulas, 3 months after the delivery is done, those young moms now have a bunch of parenting programs through Catholic Charities to ensure that they become better moms and dads. So it's not just the savings that we have merging the 5 companies, it's also been the array of services that we can provide that now has multiplied for every single company that we have.
No, I can see that. And it's, you mentioned it earlier, from womb to tomb.
Correct.
Right? That's, part of your mission, part of your goal is to be able to provide services in there. And so at every phase along the way. I would imagine there's also an opportunity for, the people who run these organizations and have been involved with them to be able to collaborate with each other and bounce ideas off of each other and do that kind of thing.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So I'm blessed to work with a wonderful group of women, type A personality, most of them, and they tell me what to do at all times. So our meetings, all of the companies have their own interests, which makes sense. But I also understand that at the end of the day, it's like we need to do what is the best thing for the family. But it has been a growing challenge, and we have growing pains. But all of those companies actually have grown because of this. And I think it's the important thing, not for the companies, but for the people we serve, which is always our mission.
Mm-hmm. No, I couldn't agree more. I can't help but notice that you call them companies.
Companies, organizations, not-for-profits, to me, they're part of the family. Mm-hmm. And if I talk to my friends, I always say, yeah, we're part of the family. We are dysfunctional at times. We fight, but at the end of the day, we love each other. And I actually think now it's working very well for everybody.
Very good. That kind of caught my attention from the perspective of, and having been in the nonprofit world for a while, you hear different vernacular used and very, buzzwords, whatever you want to call them, right? And that type of thing. But, I like the notion of thinking of them as a company, because when you think of a company, it's got, customers or clients that it's serving, and it's got the people, I like that. I like that language. So
it took me a while to make people understand at least my vision, my concept, which was telling people Catholic Charities is a business. And people, no, Catholic Charities is not a business. You're a not-for-profit. And in my point of view, we are a business. If we don't have any money, we cannot help people. So we need the money. Now, it's a faith-based entity, and we provide services to people, but we need that money. And we are here for the people that we serve. So we have great people in our development team, like marketing team, and all these concepts that, to me, made sense when I got here from Chicago, but we didn't have them at the time. Now I think more people know about Catholic Charities than they knew 11 years ago. And that's because the people at the agency have been very, very hard working on that. But this is a company. So.
No, and all entities in the nonprofit world are one in terms of that. It's just a matter of whether they recognize it or not.
Correct.
So we've talked a lot about a lot of different things, but I bet there's something I didn't ask you that you wanted to hear about or that you wanted the opportunity to talk about. So what?
Well, I could talk to you about my great employees. And to be honest with you, at Catholic Charities, I've been blessed because we have fantastic people working in the company. I can tell you we have great board members. We have over 300 board members who run the company from a finance point of view, from a legal point of view. We have different board committees. So I will ask, if anyone wants to get involved, please let me know, because we have health services with doctors and nurses and dentists, the lawyers, the finance people. We have a social enterprise committee, so we're trying to get again. So we do many ways, and that is what we want for board members, is the direction of how do we get to the place where we want to go, which is self-sufficiency for the people that we serve. And then the volunteers. I mean, I am shocked, and not anymore, but I've been shocked for many years in San Antonio. Every time we had a crisis, every time that, we had 2,000 children several years ago at Fremont Coliseum, I got a call from the federal government asking me on a Thursday if we could actually serve the people and have volunteers and do whatever it took. I was like, one thing about Catholic Charities, we always going to say yes. And I said yes. And it's like, well, when do you want this? Like next month or in 2 months? It's like, no, we want it by Saturday. And it's like, okay, this doesn't make any sense to me. How are we going to have 2,000 children in 48 hours there? But we needed to save cats, 2,000 cats. I called Valero, and Valero sent maybe 50, 60 volunteers. We got another 100 volunteers. And on Saturday and Sunday, there are pictures out there that you can see like how a place that is Fremont Coliseum empty and now suddenly is full with cats. And every time that there's an emergency, for whatever reason, people step up to the plate. And I really, to your point here, like my preference right now is just to say thank you to San Antonio. I mean, not just for the money, but for toys, for anything that they send, toothbrushes sometimes for kiddos who don't have anything. So it's just every time something happens, and it has happened a lot here, in San Antonio in the last 10 years, this community steps up to the plate like I never saw in Chicago. And again, Chicago is a great city, and I love it. But I have never seen anything like San Antonio.
That's been a recurring theme that I've heard is, the wonderful part about San Antonio is that folks are willing to step up and help, and the sense of community, especially in a community this size. But that's definitely. And
I can testify to that because it's just the volunteers, the donations. It is, you ask for it and people come.
That is a great note to end on. So, Antonio, thank you so much for being here. This is Dan Rebmann on behalf of Philanthropy SA, reminding you to do well so you can do good.
Thank you for joining us at Philanthropy SA. We hope you found something to inspire you during today's conversation. If you know organizations and people who are making an impact in the community, we would love to hear about it. Until next time, do well so you can do good.